thought, and system is the coordinating the unit. An ecosystem is a community of living organisms and their physical environment that interact with each other in a specific area or in specific unit. That is called ecosystem. The ecosystem term coined by A.G. Tonsley, he highlighted the concept of ecosystem. But first, the concept of ecosystem introduced by the great scientist E.P. Odom. He is the father of ecosystem. The holistic understanding of the environment as a system of interlocking biotic communities. A functional unit of nature where the interaction of living organisms, biotic organisms with abiotic environment, physical environment, it takes place ecosystem. The living organisms are plants, animals, and different microbes that make up a community of life in the area. And what is physical environment? The physical environment is water and soil, rocks, sand and climate
Mineral.
and different minerals. These are the physical environment in the ecosystem. There are two types of ecosystems: artificial ecosystem and man-made ecosystem, natural ecosystem. The artificial ecosystem is man-made ecosystem, for example, agricultural fields. Next, terrestrial ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem associated with the soil, land. This terrestrial ecosystem classified into forest, grassland, and deserts. And another ecosystem is aquatic ecosystem. It associates with the water bodies and water. These aquatic ecosystem classified into freshwater and saltwater ecosystems. The freshwater ecosystem are lentic ponds, lakes, lotic rivers. These are the floating water bodies. Ponds and lakes, stagnant water bodies. Then saltwater ecosystem are wetlands, estuaries, and marine ecosystem. The wetlands associated with water and the soil. The stratification, vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels in an ecosystem is called stratification. The layers are stratified based on the heights of the plants. Different animals and plant communities live in each layer called stratozone. Each zone is stratozone. Top trees, shrubs, and herbs, grass present in the ecosystem in different levels with different heights. Structure of ecosystem. The structure of ecosystem consists of biotic and abiotic components. Biotic components are plants, animals, and microorganisms. And abiotic factors, components soil, water, minerals, rocks, etc. These are the abiotic components. Abiotic factors are non-living components, non-living parts. Just a minute. Biotic factors, producers, consumers, and decomposers. Abiotic factors, temperature, water, light, and soil. The abiotic factors are non-living parts of the environment, and biotic factors are living organisms. They can include the physical and chemical aspects of the environment in the abiotic factors, such as sunlight, water, soil, and temperature. Sunlight, a major source of energy that plants utilize for photosynthesis. Sunlight also affect the breeding cycles of the different animals in the nature. And water, it can be found in across the world and rivers, lakes, and in the form of rainfall also. Next one is the soil. Moisture content of the soil is important to germinate the seeds in the ecosystem. Next one is the producers. What is producers? Producers are the organisms that can make their food. For example, trees can make their food with the help of photosynthesis. Examples of the producers are trees, grass, algae, lichens, and some bacteria also. Solar energy is the ultimate source of energy in the ecosystem. The producers are the autotrophs. They can produce their own food material in the photosynthesis. Some types of bacteria are also produce energy instead of using sunlight. They use chemicals. Next one is the consumers. Consumers are a living organisms that eats other organisms to obtain the energy. These are the heterotrophs. They depend on another organisms. They digest their food inside the body. They are the macro consumers, micro consumers. According to the classification, there are three types of consumers: primary consumers, secondary consumers, and the top tertiary consumers. The primary consumers are Herbivores, cows and rabbits eat grass. And the second consumers are carnivores, primary carnivores. They depend for food on the primary consumers are herbivores. For example, primary carnivores are dogs, cats, snakes, and the third one is the tertiary consumers. Man is the tertiary consumer in the ecosystem. Consumers are the part of the ecosystem. Primary consumers. The first trophic level producers are green plants, and the second trophic level primary consumers. First level is the producers, second trophic level is the primary consumers. These are the herbivores, and third trophic level is secondary consumers. They are carnivores. Frogs, fishes are the best examples for the third trophic level. Secondary consumers, and the fourth level of trophic tertiary consumers, secondary carnivores. The secondary carnivores are snakes and fox. They feed on the carnivores. Third trophic level. And last one is the apex predators. They are the vultures, eagles, and lions and tigers. In the ecosystem, the top trophic level is the apex predators. Consumers are important in an ecosystem. Consumers are located in the food chain above the producers, which are organisms that can make their own food from the consumers. Primary consumer is an animal that eats plants or algae, usually herbivores. Primary consumers are part of the second trophic level in a food chain. They convert the energy stored in plants into meat. The other animals can eat this material. Next one is the decomposers. Decomposers are the organisms that they break down the dead decaying organisms. Dead organisms. It is called decomposition process. The process is possible by only certain fungi and microorganisms in the nature. They are also known as micro-consumers. They convert complex organic material into simple organic substance. Best examples for the decomposers are bacteria and fungi. Next one is the major functions of ecosystem. Ecosystem have many functions, including regulating the ecological process. The ecosystem maintain the essential ecological process and life support systems in the nature. Ecosystems maintain balance among the different trophic levels, different organisms, and ecosystems act as flow of energy to all the organisms with different trophic levels, with different food webs, and waste decomposition. Ecosystems control the pest also. Diseases through the biological control, and ecosystems provide pollination, and ecosystem provides disturbance regulations, food protection from another organisms, and carbon sequestration is the one of the important aspect in the ecological system. Ecosystems sequesters carbon, which helps mitigate the climate change in the nature. The major four ecosystems are productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycles. These are the major functions of the ecosystem. The first one is the productivity. The productivity of an ecosystem is the rate of which biomass is created in it. It also defined as the percentage of energy enters in the ecosystem, and it incorporated in the biomass at a particular trophic level or particular organism in the trophic level.
Sir,
The
please can explain in Telugu, sir.
productivity, what happened?
ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయరా సార్ తెలుగులో?
Uh, we need to
తెలుగు మీడియం.
we need to explain in English in this class. I think they will arrange Telugu medium classes in another time.
ఓకే సార్.
Thank you.
Sir, hello.
There are two types of productivity.
Hello, sir.
Now tell me.
Someone can you repeat again, sir, about productivity from starting onwards?
Sure. Wait.
I can't understand.
Okay. Yeah. Productivity of an ecosystem is the rate of which the biomass is created in a trophic level, or the percentage of energy that enters the ecosystem is called productivity. The rate of biomass production per unit area during a given period of time is called productivity. It measured in terms of weight or energy.
With some examples, sir.
Hello?
Sir, could you please explain this productivity with some example? This biomass rate, we are not able to understand, sir.
Biomass is the plants. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, please ask me after the class.
Sure, sir. Sure. Please continue, sir. Okay.
Sorry. The productivity are two types. Primary productivity. It is the amount of biomass produced per unit in a given time by the plants during the photosynthesis process. The secondary productivity is the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumers in a given period of time. This is the secondary productivity. Then decomposition. It is the natural process that break down the organic matter into simpler substances, which is the first step in the recycling nutrients used by the different organisms. For example, bacteria and fungi. The detritivores are heterotrophic animals that feed on the dead particulates and organic material. The organic material, chiefly plant matter. The raw materials of decomposition as dead plants, animals, and animal fakes is called detritus. Steps of decomposition. What is decomposition? Decomposition is the process of breaking down of the organic matter into simpler substances like water, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen and calcium. These are the nutrients. How it works? Decomposition like fungi and bacteria feed on the dead plants and fakes break down the organic material into using material. Why it is important in decomposition? Decomposition is the recycling nutrients that organisms use to build their bodies. It also feeds new growth. Steps of decomposition. First one is the fragmentation of detritus. It is the process of breakdown of detritus material into simpler particles by the detritivores. Second one is the leaching. Soluble inorganic nutrients dissolve in water and goes down in soil and get participated is called leaching. The best example for leaching is leachate in solid waste dump sites. And third one is the catabolism. Decomposers are fungi, bacteria. They release some enzymes to decompose the detritus into simpler inorganic compounds. Fourth one is the humification process. Simplified detritus converted into humus. Formation of the soils. The factors affecting rate of decomposition. These are two types: chemical composition and climatic conditions. These two factors affect the decomposition process. The rate of decomposition will depend on the chemical composition. The decomposition will be slow when the detritus is rich with the lignin and chitin material. The rate increases when detritus is rich in nitrogen and water-soluble substances like soluble substances, sugars. Then climatic condition. In favorable climatic conditions, the decomposition will occur easily. Low temperature and anaerobiosis inhibit the decomposition process. Aerobiosis is very useful to decompose the dead material in the natural process. Food chain. Food chain is transfer of energy, food from one producer to another organisms. It is a series of organisms series of organisms transfer the energy is called food chain. Food chains represent the energy flow through the ecosystems. In the nature, there are different food chains. Different steps in food chain are called trophic levels. Trophic level, position of any organism in the food chain ranges from value of primary producers to marine mammals and different mammals and humans. This method to determine the trophic level of consumer to add one level to mean trophic level of its prey. The grazing food chain. The food chain that begins with producers continued with herbivores called grazing food chain. The producers are plants, grass, and the herbivores depend on the producers for food. The finally man in the top predator. This is the best example for the grazing food chain. Detritus food chain. The food chain that begins with dead organic matter is called detritus food chain. Saprophytes are the best example for the decomposers in detritus food chain, which feed on the detritus material, dead material, and parasitic food chain is the third one. The parasitic food chain is a type of food chain where food energy is transferred from longer organisms to smaller organisms without killing the larger organisms. The larger organisms are the hosts, and the smaller organisms feed on the host. They are called as parasites. Next one is the trophic levels. Position of an organisms in the food chain and ranges from a value of primary producers to marine mammals. 4 trophic levels are present in ecosystem because level of energy decreases during the flow of energy from trophic level to another trophic level. The standing crop, each trophic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time is called standing crops. Food web, a natural interconnection of food chains. A food web is a complex network of food chains that shows the how organisms are interconnected, connected by their feeding relationships in an ecosystem. Organisms depending on each other for food. And energy flow. Energy flow in an ecosystem is the movement of energy from one organism to another organism, starting with the sunlight and moving through the food chain. The energy flow of the ecosystem single direction lower to higher levels. For example, energy flow from producers to primary consumers, then secondary consumers, and so on. This mainly works based on two basic laws of thermodynamics. What is these two laws of thermodynamics that are important to living systems and ecology? The first law of thermodynamics, also known as the law of conservation of energy. This is the state that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be changed from one form to another form. Producers to consumer, consumers to decomposers. And the second law of thermodynamics, this is the states that in entropy is closed system always increases the energy flow. An ecological pyramid. An ecological pyramid is a geographical representation, graphical representation of the different trophic levels in an ecosystem and how energy flow through them with the organisms, and it can also be known as trophic pyramid and energy pyramid, and it is also called as food pyramid. Different characteristic features of ecological pyramids. The base of pyramid is broad and it is narrow at the apex. Apex in the trophic level, top predator. The relationship can be expressed in terms of number, energy, and biomass. The base of the pyramid represented by the producer and apex in the top. This is the pyramid of numbers. Pyramid of numbers, the number of organisms decreases with each trophic level. So this pyramid is always upright pyramid. Producers are usually at the base of the pyramid because there is most of them are the autotrophs. Best example for the pyramid of numbers, grassland ecosystem. The number of grasses producers is high in the trophic level, but the number of consumers decreases at the next level. Next one is the pyramid of biomass. Biomass refers to mass of living organisms present in each trophic level. The pyramid of biomass is generally upright for the ecosystem. The another one is the pyramid of energy, decreasing rate of energy flow from producers to tertiary consumers, apex consumer. A pyramid of energy is a diagram that shows how energy flow through an ecosystem from one trophic level to next trophic level. inverted pyramid. The pyramid of